I'm Damien Fowler.
And I'm Eileen Liffring.
And welcome to this edition of the Current Podcast.
This week, we're delighted to talk with DeLu Jackson, EVP and CMO of ADT.
The home securities brand, synonymous with its blue octagon logo, seen on front lawns and in windows across the United States, is turning 150 years old this August.
In all those years, ADT has seen its customers' needs fluctuate. Technology has given more power to individuals, and the inconsistent housing market is turning out more renters than owners.
DeLu starts out by telling us what messaging the brand is leaning into as it reaches a new milestone.
That's really exciting for us that this August we get to celebrate, monumental 150th birthday. And for us, that's a really great testament as much to all the things we've accomplished in that 150 years, but more importantly, what it means for the next 150 years. Because all of that's been driven by a consistent commitment to innovation in security, safety, and now even smart home. So it's been the evolution of the definition of what it means to be safe, protected, and connected. And for all of our history, we've been focused on making sure that we're the leader in providing that to our customers.
And I understand there's even a new campaign coming out soon?
Oh, yeah. So part of this innovation and even history of it is recognizing that from our consumers always that every second counts. That when we think about what we're doing, there's this tension between living your life to the fullest and having the opportunity to travel and do amazing things because the things that you care about are protected. And so this idea that when every second counts, you can count on ADT and really always have is really exciting for us. Internally and externally, it's such a great manifestation of what we've always been and what we aspire to provide going forward.
On that note, I remember even 5 years ago, I wrote a piece for Ad Age about how the brand underwent a marketing transformation to drive the message home that ADT is much more than a home security provider. With your smart home integration and your mobile security options for small and large businesses. How has that moved the needle forward? What would you say is the perception of the brand today?
I'd say the perceptions continue to evolve. And I'd say the one great thing is that the foundational relevance of safety and security are still super high for so many consumers. It's what they need. And as the space has evolved to be more smart home and connected devices and video and cameras, we've continued to provide that. And customers, our programming and our messaging have continued to reinforce that with partnerships and with our continued platform innovation to provide those capabilities. So it's been a big part of our continued innovation and commitment to innovation for safety and security.
One of the things that's really interesting to me is your approach to ads in the campaigns that you launch. And I know that in 2023, you switched from sort of more fearful or scary approach to a humorous one. And I'm just wondering, you mentioned that tension between living your life to the fullest and also looking after things that matter. Could you talk a little bit about that tension and how it informs your campaigns?
Yeah, I think it's really a really important one that we call this the FUD, or fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and the YOLO, you only live once. And that's always been the tension that we see, the things that we protect customers from versus the things we protect them for. And we saw the insight that people really lean into and get emotional about the things we protect them for. And it really shows the value we create when we demonstrate that, and we don't have to scare people to do that. We just need to demonstrate that we are really there to take care of those things. And if we're there and in place taking care of those things, then you can do some amazing things and live your life to the fullest. And that's really what our customers celebrate. And that's really neat for us to know that we play a critical role in that.
That's fascinating. Do you have any sort of specific examples of how customers have shared those things that ADT has afforded them insight into their best lives, as it were?
Right. Really fascinating is one of our big partners looked on, did web search. And we looked at all these great images of what people were doing with our signs in the background. So celebrating birthdays, celebrating my first new business as an entrepreneur, celebrating graduations. We had a video of a customer putting an alligator in a trash can in his front yard, and that sign is there. Sometimes it's in the background, sometimes it's in the forefront, but it's been a part of all these big moments. And that's really interesting because it's just there and alive out in the world every day.
Yeah, it's amazing the power of that logo, actually. It's not something as prominent as, say, the Golden Arch is. And at the same time, when you think about it, it is ubiquitous. You see it everywhere once you start noticing it.
Right. Like you said, if you go through neighborhoods and you start to really pay attention to it, you see how many places it's there on a window, in a yard, on a business. It is so iconic and so ever present.
Eileen's just mentioned that 5 years ago she was writing about ADT. And one thing that just occurred to me when she said that is in the last 5 years, we've seen tech undergo, especially ad tech, undergo a kind of boom. And I'm interested to know how that has influenced the way you approach your marketing.
Yeah, it really speaks to the omni-channel nature of marketing. It's not one or the other, where our sales motion historically had been very much in the home, physical interactions and interactions with customers. The digital capabilities in terms of information presentation, information gathering, research, and even purchasing online and being able to buy online and even install it yourself. All of that has transformed the way consumers engage with us and even purchase. So we're present in all those channels now and make sure that we provide the right information based on the context of those channels. So it's been exciting in terms of the different ways to reach consumers and connect with their evolving needs for safety and security and smart home and connectivity.
Speaking about your marketing, ADT has shifted from having an in-house agency to now going back to an external partner. What basically inspired that shift back?
Yeah, I'd say it's an evolution, right? So a few years ago, we had an opportunity to hire a lot of great talent and bring them in-house and sort of build internal capabilities that for the time were really leading capabilities. As that continued to evolve and partners start to bring new ideas, we started to add them to the roster for initiatives and projects. And as we move forward, they start to bring bigger ideas. And just through evolution and growth, our teams have added more of those back to our roster and expanded the team size. So now when you look up, it's more of an evolution than a revolution. We look up and we have a great internal team that drives certain capabilities. And then we've supplemented that with some leading partners just so that we can continue to innovate and deliver on our customer expectations.
That is interesting. Are there any specific channels that you perhaps are just increasing spend and time and effort on?
Yeah, probably the one that's growing most is connected TV and streaming, as more people go there. But social's increasing as people consume more information, and YouTube, right? Those are continuing to grow. Because when we think about some people, when they purchase these types of solutions, they need more information. And sometimes advertising creates interest, but we have to go other places to make the purchase decision or find all the collective information. So I would say it's as much communicating effectively as it is advertising and marketing. It's really the expansion of communicating effectively across all of those channels. I think that's a really important distinction for us because we think about it as part of our communication strategy or go-to-market strategy, not simply what we would call marketing. It's more comprehensive.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That is your go-to-market strategy, though, tied to, in some ways, the health of the housing market? Because presumably you're looking to reach people who are buying homes, setting up homes.
Absolutely. People move, relocate, remodel homes, the self-improvement craze, all of those things. Those are moments that are identified where people make the decision to upgrade a system, add a system, upgrade a system, or reactivate a system. So we definitely are very present in those activities, online and in physical channels. We've also seen things like the growth in renters. So we have a DIY ADT self-setup product. We also work in the multifamily space where more users or builders and property managers can support the units and the renters in those units. Again, different needs, different need states, And leading brands like ADT are providing more options for consumers to protect what matters most to them.
That's interesting what you said about renters and renters leaning into using the self-setup. Could you say a little bit more about that? What's the potential for that market right now?
Yeah, that market is growing. And obviously, even the rental market is growing. And there's always a life stage and new people moving through that stage of renting. And having those self-setup or DIY solutions gives people the opportunity to create more affordable solutions, as well as they're portable, right? We can take them with me. And so it's just part of the evolution of the nature of security, how technology has changed it and made it more accessible and more available to more people. So it's not just when you're in a home you own, it's in the home that's yours or what you call home. And that expanded portfolio has allowed us to provide protection to more families, small businesses, and again, more people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to generational differences between homeowners and renters, how do you look at those different subsets of consumers and target to them effectively across channels?
Interesting, because we look at the need state and the use cases, or we call them demand spaces, and really it's sort of life stage, and there's some key things, right? How often do I relocate? Younger audiences tend to move more. Some even current generations just move more in general than historically. Then you have more stable, where people buy a place and they stay in a place a long time. They have slightly different characteristics. But interesting thing, when you're in the business for 150 years, we've been through so many generations of families who have started with us, grown up with us, grown old with us, and passed it on to the next generation. So that's, again, really interesting dynamic that we've seen over all of those decades of presence, that those behaviors are really about life stage, affordability, and then portability and mobility relative to those generations. And so we look at all of those signals to provide solutions that work for consumers across those need states.
There's a sort of generational handing down of the brand, and I hadn't even considered that in the context of security.
Yeah, we have so many people who tell us that I grew up with it. It was always there, right? And it was that thing that I needed. When I needed something, I knew to push the button, or I knew to call, or I knew how to set it. And I remember some of my first memories are setting it when I'm home, or I'm watching a little brother or a cousin. And so it's a really fascinating role that's played in so many people's lives for so long. And there's just many of those insights that our consumers provide to us.
Now, how do you go about measuring the impacts of the campaign investments that you are making?
Yeah, we use a number of KPIs, but I think what's really interesting for our team is because we're a direct seller, we have the ability to measure our investments right down to not just the sale, but to the installation. We can look in time at all of our investments in our media mix and understand when we invest, have something in or out, or we change campaign or content, what's the impact through the entire funnel? And I'm fortunate to have a great team from advanced analytics to performance measurement that works together every day with our teams to literally measure that and look at the things that are happening and changing by the day over time. So we have a really interesting, rich body of insight to help us understand the impact of every investment.
One thing with omni-channel environments is that a lot of marketers are saying basically that with like CTV and commerce, almost like the funnel is collapsing in a sense. What would you say to that?
I would say it's less of a funnel than a little bit of an infinity loop, right? Mm-hmm. People are gathering information pre, during, post, even after they purchase, they continue to gather information, reaffirm, and optimize their choices. So I think it's not a funnel that kind of goes to the bottom and people stop. I think people just continue to consume information and insights. So I think we kind of have to be always on and, again, omnipresent to meet those needs.
And speaking of omnipresent, and this is a bit of a pivot, but I know you partnered last year with Miami Marlins in a multi-year deal. I'm curious to hear from you on why sports sponsorships are part of your strategy.
Yeah, this was a really exciting one for us. And part of it was beyond just sports sponsorships. This was the first time that they were doing branded advertising on Major League Baseball uniforms. What we liked about it was the context. And if you go to the stadium, you'll see when you're around third base, it says safe at home. And when they score a run, it lights up and it says safe at home, brought to you by ADT. So really neat, right? Some people were thinking it's really about impressions, right? How much visibility will the brand get by being visible? That's a really important one. But what we saw was this great context, safe at home. It's also a great family venue. It's great for employees. And by the way, they play 81 games at home and 81 games on the road. So the brand travels. And then lastly, I would say really cool with the partnership beyond the community work we do and the development of our philanthropy and giving kids safe places and safe spaces to grow up and learn sports and develop. We also have the patches on both arms. So when you look at visibility, it's visible for most of the game.
With all of your sports partnerships, though, you guys must be excited about so many live sports coming to streaming.
What was really great about that I love building on that, is that when we think about media and the concept of media, this was a big part of it. We use comparisons to what are the number of impressions, media impressions, and back to context, contextual delivery of our messaging with these partnerships. And each of them gave us the opportunity to get large amounts of media and visibility for the brand in a very specific context that reinforces the things that we want to communicate to consumers, like safe at home or safety or community. We help communities stay safe, and these are commitments. So when you look at that from a pure media perspective, live sports and sports in general have broad reach audiences. They have sequentially different audiences based on events and locations. And so give us a lot of great reach, and in some cases, great frequency, as I described with baseball and on the road. We also look at the media markets. Where do they play? So really interesting when you think about it in the context of media versus just as an event.
Definitely. Now, I want to look at your career for a brief moment because you have such a long-ranging career. You've worked at brands such as Subaru, Nissan, McDonald's, Kellogg's, Conagra. Throughout your roles, one can almost trace over time how marketing has evolved. And I know you focus specifically on integrating teams, merging e-commerce and strategy with omni-channel environments. Can you kind of describe this transition throughout the years and perhaps why this shift has happened?
Sure. It really is the evolution you described. I caught the tail of the digital revolution, if you will, in marketing, where as technology started to transform the way we go to market, thought about consumers, thought about the pace at which we operate, and the convergence of technology and what we call traditional marketing, right? Digital used to be a unique thing that's set between IT and marketing. And then, as you said, they continue to converge in terms of the way consumers engage with those spaces. So then the teams started to come together. And I've been fortunate to have opportunities to work across those different disciplines and bring those things together for organizations who were going through those transformations and help individuals evolve, help teams evolve, and help organizations evolve to bring those things together. So my career has been one of sort of the brands you mentioned, amazing organization transformations around the world, and really been an exciting time to be part of marketing.
And that's it for this edition of The Current Podcast. We'll be back next week, so stay tuned.
The Current Podcast's theme is by Love and Caliber. The Current team includes Kat Vesey and Sydney Cairns.
And remember,
I would say it's as much communicating effectively as it is advertising and marketing. It's really the expansion of communicating effectively across all of those channels.
I'm Damien.
And I'm Elise.
And we'll see you next time. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave us a review. Also, tune into our other podcast, The Current Report.